What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be working on a lot of electricals. We'll be wiring the fuel pump, the gauges, the wideband, the boost controller, yeah, all that fun stuff. We kind of had a problem with the cabin harness being all jacked up, but the good thing is that one of my buddy Edgar bought a shell for one of the good friends of mine that recently crashed his car, so we found a shell. And Edgar is kind enough to donate the cabin harness, dash harness to me. So Edgar, thank you very much. Appreciate it. We have that harness back into the car now. Corey helped me out with the dash, and everything's all connected in there. So the next thing to do will be just to wire up the switch panel and work our way up from there. So I originally had the S1000 seat in there. It was actually a passenger side S1000 seat, and I didn't feel like modifying the bracket, so ended up getting this old school Tenso R seat from one of my good friends in Wisconsin, Kelsey. So I just want to say thanks to Kelsey for letting me have this one for a good deal. We have the dash and everything back into the car, and we have this fresh uncut dash harness. So again, thanks to Edgar for letting me have this one. We'll be doing a lot of this electrical stuff, retrofit, coil and plug, all the way to the back. So yeah, with all that said, I think it'd be a good time to just kind of start with the wideband, get the sensor outside, pull the switch panel out, and go from there. So just a quick overview of what I just did. Obviously this is the main harness for the wideband, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to set it up. If you follow the harness here, you have one of the wire that goes into the ECU. You had to pin this to the ECU so that you could see the AFRs, the air-fuel ratio at the database, sorry, the data log when you're making it pass. And then you obviously have the ground right here. This will be connected to the thermostat outside, and the other black one is the one for the connector for the gauge itself. So we could just slide this into one of the vents and connect to the back, and this should be it. The power wire, I actually added a 30 amp fuse in there just in case, you know. Ideally you want to have a relay in there, but this fuse should be good enough. So this will either connect to one of the fuses underneath the dash, or I could just splice the ignition switch and connect this to there for the main 12-volt power source, and that will turn on the wideband as soon as you turn on the key. Alright, so after a good bit of time underneath the dash trying to tuck everything, I finished installing the wideband. So I went ahead and installed the bracket for the gauge here. So I drilled 2 holes and bolted the bracket in there for the digital gauge. And if you look at my view here, like for example I'm driving the car or making a pass, I'm able to see the air-fuel ratio, and I can go ahead and monitor and tell right away if the car is running lean or rich, and you could go ahead and let off and, you know, fix the fuel tables or whatever. So I'm happy with the placement in that one, and I'm still able to see the tachometer here. You get the you know, the speedometer, and obviously you'll still be able to see everything here for the air, the fuel gauge as well as the temperature. So now would be a good time to go ahead and wire the fuel pump as well. So let's go ahead and do that. So here's the wirings for the fuel pump. It's tucked in underneath the carpet. So you got the ground and you got the power wire. The ground connects to the chassis somewhere down there, and then the red one connects to the accessories on the toggle switch here. So you have the middle one, which where the connection for the fuel pump, and then the power one is this one here, and this goes back into the relay. The bottom part of it is the ground, which connects to the chassis as well. So if you follow the wirings all the way to the back, you'll see that I used the relay. So what we have here is a 4-prong relay, and you got 4 different connections from the bottom, which I've already wired in here. The 87 will go to the ascending unit from the actual harness of the car itself that will turn the fuel pump when you turn the key. The 30 goes to the positive side of the battery for the main power. 86 goes to the switch panel connection, and then 85 is just a ground. You could connect this to the chassis if you want, but other than that, that's pretty much all you gotta do. So I didn't actually take a video of how I connect everything to the connector right here, but Hondata will provide you with the pins, and then the manuals of how to install the retrofit. Basically, you have 4 different colors here. You got the purple, the red, the black, the yellow. It's pretty easy. If you have the OBD1, black and yellow will just have to be pinned to the black and yellow, obviously for the ground end and the power wire. But you'll have to open the connector and D-pin A21. Sorry, my cell phone won't focus, but there we go, A21. So D-pin that one, and then pin the yellow wire to it, and then D-pin A16, and then pin the purple wire to it. So it tells you exactly what to do here. So that's what I did here, and then we're gonna have to go to engine bay, and I'm gonna show you what I did there as well. So now we're at the engine bay area. Retrofit is basically it's just a harness for the coils. I've already put the plugs in there as well. We'll be using Iridium IX 2669 BKR9EIX spark plugs. My buddy John at Boosted Built is actually the one that got me the plugs, so shout out to John for hooking it up with the plugs. And then as far as the install, you'll notice that there will be two wires that are exposed. It's just open. Reason for that is you have the pins that I was talking earlier that the Hondata provided, which are these ones. So you'll have to use the 2 big ones and connect that to the green and the yellow wire from the harness. And then all you had to do is D-pin the smaller connector from the distributor. So you have the 2 big ones here. 2 connectors, you got the big one and the small one. So you'll have to D-pin the 2 wires from the distributor on the smaller connector, and then pin the yellow and the green one from the harness of the retrofit, which I did over here, and then just connect that to the actual harness, engine harness, which I did over here as well. And then Hondata is pretty adamant about putting the ground to the thermostat area, so make sure that you put the actual retrofit ground harness to the thermostat, which I did over there. So that is pretty much it as far as the whole install. And then distributor, we won't be using it for the actual ignition itself anymore. The only reason why the distributor is still there is for the cam sensor, which is why we have this connection here. But we'll have to remove the coils and the rotors. We don't need those anymore. And then I'll eventually get the block plate for the distributor, but for now the car will run perfectly fine with the stock cover here. But that should be it for the whole install. If we have like a cam trigger on the other side, we could go ahead and eliminate the distributor, or you'll notice that some cars like Sweet Factory or all those fast cars that are using standalone ECU, they'll completely remove the distributor and just put a cam seal in there. And with Hondata, you still have to use the distributor for the cam sensor, so that's the reason why we still have this. And also, I just want to point out that if you don't have the actual bracket for the Victor X manifold, that it's kind of a pain because there's a big gap in between right here. So most stock Honda brackets will not work, so you'll have to either order one online. I didn't want to wait, so I went ahead and just made my own one. So here is a stock bracket connected to another bracket to extend it further out, and then the second bracket is the one that connects to the intake manifold. But there's another problem: the fact that the throttle body's the opening it's counterclockwise, so the opening you'd have to like pull it from the other side. So I had to make sure that the bracket is somewhat on top, so it pulls the throttle body open enough. And we're still going to have to calibrate the TPS to make sure that we have 100% wide open throttle, and then that should be it. So right now I'm wiring the 4-port boost controller to the switch panel. So the way I had it set up is obviously you have the top one, the top prong, that is your the power wire, 12 volts. So just had to wire that to any 12 volt power output. And then the bottom one, this is your ground. Just go ahead and ground that to the chassis. The middle one is the accessory wire. That's where you connect your one of the boost controller wire, and the other wire will need to be pinned to the ECU. So you could go ahead and control the different variants and whatever settings you want the boost solenoid to be at, cycle duty, whatever. So really the whole idea is to switch different boost at the street. So like if I go to the track, I turn on the boost solenoid, so that will give me all the boost wherever I had it set up at the dyno. And then when I go back at the street, I don't want a lot of power for the street, because I don't want to strip gears on a transmission or break something in a transmission. So with that said, you could just turn off the solenoid by flipping a switch, and that will put the boost back to about 18 pounds, whatever power. I'm guessing it would be somewhere around 500 horsepower in a wastegate. And yeah, don't mind the double gauges right here. I know I have two oil pressure gauge. I'll be using the odometer one. This one is a cheap gauge. I didn't want to use this one. I was originally going to put the wideband here, but it was kind of difficult for me to be driving all the way here and then looked all the way here. So this is actually, I'm going to take this out and probably put a water temperature in there or something else. Here's a little diagram of the boost solenoid connection. I've already wired in one of the wire to the switch panel, like I was showing you guys earlier. The other wire will be connected to A11, which is this little wire right here. We're gonna use one of this pin and pin this wire to A11, which will be this one right here in the middle would be A11. And if you're not sure what A11 is, you could look at the diagram online. But A11 is the EGR, which is, let's see, on the top of the connectors. From the back, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if you count it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that confirms that that is the A11. So we're gonna go ahead and pin one of the connection from the solenoid from there, and that should be it. All right, so we got the other wire pinned into the A11, so we're all set on that part. Tomorrow, the only thing that we'll have to do is to put the alternator, and we should be able to hopefully start the car tomorrow. So I was messing around with the alternator today. I was trying to finish it and install it there, but the bolt, the top bolt's not lining up, and it took me a minute to realize that this alternator is actually for a D series, and one way to tell is to pay attention on where the connector for the ground, for the power, with the B series or B18, B20, B16, the power connector will be on top. And on this alternator, the connector is on the side right there, so that confirms that this is for D series, which means that the alternator height is shorter, and you won't be able to use it on the bracket with the B series bracket. But for you guys out there that are planning on running a ATI race damper, you can't use the stock, the alternator build, because that will be too big. But you guys might want to write it down. This is the right build for this one. If you go to AutoZone, this is the part number 4040275. You can get this AutoZone for $14, I believe, maybe $15, something like that. But I'm gonna go ahead and pick up the alternator in the morning. I'll end the video here since it's almost 4 in the morning again. We are about 90% done. We are more than likely going to start the car today. Stay tuned, and I'm excited. I'm sure you guys are excited too. So yeah, we'll start the car in a couple hours, and hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you soon.